topics is this. When you said we need to brood on death, you talk about a simpatico or a synchronicity or a weird moment. I don't usually watch the show when it first releases one day because I'm usually at work or doing something like. But I'll get up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, hours before my wife and daughter get up, and I will start, get on the desktop, start doing research. And when I'm reading news and sending stuff to the crew for the show, I'll almost always click like a show to watch it. And that's the go-to thing I'll have on the background. And I said, well, I'm not going to click on the show. I'm going to click on the speech you gave a few weeks ago. And you talked about brooding on death. And I'm sitting there that week literally thinking about the fact that you've got to be humble, you've got to be thankful, you've got to realize that there's an infinite universe and consciousness, and that focusing on what made humanity, focusing on the fact that we are spiritual beings, and that this life is finite, these incredible experiences, all the people we've met and known, and all the ancestors before us that did incredible things and went through hell and were tough as nails to get us here, really ties us into our ancestors and the epigenetic instinctive knowledge that really makes us a colony or hybrid creature of all of our ancestors. We have a soul, we have a spirit, we have our genetic imprint that they've proven mathematically is multidimensional, even above the third dimension. So we have a personal spirit, but really we also have a collective bodysuit that is a collection of all of our ancestors, and just the beauty and the wonderment and the spectacularness of that, dwelling on how incredible that is, but also leaning into eternity and leaning in to this body and this incarnation, and I'm not saying reincarnation, incarnation, but being so magical, and that also that death is the great equalizer, and that you will be humbled and you will get old and your teeth will fall out and your hair will fall out and you will get cancer or you will have a heart attack, and no matter how powerful you are, you're not in control. In that, it tunes you into God. And then what you said, so I'm heavily focused on this and telling my wife this, and I meet with my dad, who's really my mom, and I don't see them as much as I should, but my dad's really always told me this, and I didn't really get it when I was younger. Now I get it, as I get older, and I'm sitting there just literally praying that morning and drinking coffee and just focusing on death and just focusing on life. Because you focus on death, it makes life so much bigger, and focusing on what I'm not a Hindu and I'm not a Sikh, but the Sikhs are like a 500-year-old version of 3,000-year-old Hinduism, and they think everything's a manifestation of God in the universe around us, and then interfacing and how we take every moment of how magic it is what's going to resonate in the future to bring us close to God, so that we basically resonate into the higher dimension with God. And that's really been my instinctive understanding of it, spiritual understanding, the dream understanding of it. I didn't read books, and I read what the Sikhs are saying. It's basically, I was reading some of their writings just a month ago, and it was about focusing on death, so you also understand life, and being humble and being a servant, and how that's what empowers you, so you're not an asshole. Like your dad would tell you, focus on the fact that I'm an asshole, it shouldn't be. We all have the asshole side.
Yes.
You have a better quote, but your dad's quote.
The root of all wisdom is knowing what an asshole you are.
And it really is. My dad always says the root of all thing is being humble and appreciating things, and not getting on a power trip. Basically, what your dad's saying.
Yeah.
And so that's wise men. And so I'm sitting there totally focused for I wouldn't call it meditation, but 30 minutes, just sitting there in the dark with the computer screen on. And I go, no, I'm not going to watch their show from yesterday. I'm going to watch this speech. And I click it, and I'm like 10 minutes in, we got to say everything I'm saying. I haven't even said this on air. I'm hearing you say basically the same thing, because it's a universal truth. Then I want to bring the next piece to it, which you talked about. You grew up in a super wealthy area of California when you weren't, spending your summers here in Maine. And speaking for you, I watch all the time, read your material. It's beautiful. And you were talking about how they're totally freaked out and neurotic and crazy because no one talks about death. Everybody shelves away the old people. They basically put them out on an ice float or burn them like the Vikings. And that by doing that, that's what makes them not be connected to reason and God and the deeper things. And that's why they're so lost. That's totally true. So let me now take you one step further in this. The globalists are so scared of death. They have all this money, all this power, all this control. So they're obsessed with finding life-extension technology, merging with machines, becoming gods. That's their new religion. That's the transhumanism. And that's where all their funding goes. But that's only one side of the coin. The other side is that if you're going to be God, you've got to be in charge of death. So because they fear death and they project their hatred of themselves onto us, then they can poison us, dumb us down, sterilize us, depopulate us. They believe that's more for them at a very greedy level. So they want to be death, the destroyer of worlds. To quote Oppenheimer, I become death, destroyer of worlds, and at the same time cheat death. So it's a total subconscious obsession with death. Instead of consciously focusing on it, getting over it, instead they turn it loose to their animal, lower alligator brain, and are now manifesting all this because they've not embraced the higher level of understanding.
I agree with that completely, but it's doomed as a project, no? I mean, it is the Tower of Babel. Whenever you see in history is the story of this, people drunk on their own power, overstating their control over things, becoming convinced they're God, and then being destroyed. I mean, it is just an endless loop of that story.
It's a law of humans.
It's a law, exactly.
And
so this isn't going to work. They're going to blow up the world before they do this. There's just not possible.
You just stole my thunder, because we've not talked before this. We've talked about a lot of stuff, but nothing about the show really. It's a law, just like gravity, just like 2 + 2 = 4. It is the fabric of the universe. And I was about to say, in the past, megalomaniacs try to control everything, order the firstborn, killed. Almost every kingdom will do that, whether it was Egypt or the Druids. Oh, there's too many young men being born, kill them.
Yeah.
I mean, depopulation's always been there. At the time of Plato, 2,500 years ago, he thought the world was overpopulated. So that's kind of where the eugenics comes from and where they get these ideas. The greatest philosopher ever, who said a lot of great things, but also said there's too many Greeks. We need to kill most of them. They're animals. They're dumb. We need to control breeding. It only makes supermen. That's where Hitler got all that. That's where all this comes from. But the central issue here is, in the past, civilizations would just fall apart when they got into a decadent phase. Hard men make good times. Hard men make good times make soft men make bad times.
Exactly.
And so instead of going through that cycle and the collapse of that corrupt system, now there's biological weapons, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, all this other advanced stuff. Instead, they're going to try to use the robots and all the control and the nuclear weapons to make us finally get under their mark of the beast, finally get under their unified system of control, finally get under their social credit score, which was predicted by these incredibly connected people 2,000 years ago, that this would be the ultimate tyranny that was coming, almost psychically seeing it into the future, because of the great evil potential. Time's really a loop. It was looping back or bouncing back. Real psychics seeing into the future what was going to happen in Revelation as a potential, I believe, and it's actually a warning that we don't have to follow that course. And that's my own personal belief. So instead, whether you believe Revelation or not, the evil globalists, the selfish globalists, are using it as a blueprint and literally building the mark of the beast casual society, where you don't just, I agree to take this mark and buy and sell now. You have to worship the beast that can be seen by all on earth at the same time. It describes these big holograms you've got to watch and worship. And it tells you what to do. It tells you how to live. And it says men become women and women become men, and children are set upon their parents. And there's nothing but wickedness being embedded. And it describes everything that's now happening, and says when they roll this out, you've got to worship this world government. You've got to worship the system and do exactly what it says, or it doesn't let you buy and sell. And so whether people believe in the Bible or not, believe in Revelation or not, it is now manifesting.
I don't see a lie in that. I don't think, I am a Christian, but I don't think we need to be one to arrive at exactly the same conclusion.